Welcome to the creative brain of Dean Hawk. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and equipped to become a better ministry leader.
Hey, welcome to the Dean Hawk Leadership Podcast. This is Dean, and I am so thankful to have you joining us once again. On the 15th of every month, we release a new podcast. This month, we are talking about momentum busters and thrusters. Momentum busters and thrusters. Let's first talk about momentum, and you know what it like, and I'm talking about momentum in our church world, in our services. But you know what it's like when there is that surge of momentum in the events, the services, the activities that you're doing. You can't necessarily explain it, but it's that wind at your back versus wind in your face. It's the wind beneath your wings. It's when things even go wrong, they end up turning out right. And even when attendance is low, maybe the offering breaks an all-time high. And here in Colorado, when we've had snow, it could be easy to go, oh, it's going to be a low mojo, low momentum day. And it's a snowy day and not as many people show up. But man, does the Spirit of God, and there's just such a sweet presence there. And then we've all been in those opportunities of when we've walked into a service. Thank God this doesn't happen often, but it's so distinct in my mind. I can think back. I walk into the auditorium, I go to put my stuff on my chair, and I'm there about 45 minutes before, and you can just feel it. You sense it. There's something's amiss before anyone sings a song, anyone does an announcement, anybody prays, anybody preaches. It just feels like you're in knee-deep mud. When I sense that, I begin to pray. I get the team to pray to try and counterbalance that. But there are those moments that when we've dotted all of the I's, crossed all of the T's, we've done our homework, and the service goes flat. And we can beat ourselves in the head and try and figure out why. Sometimes we can analyze it. Here's what I know: prayer is the feeder to momentum and the Spirit of God moving and flowing and supporting what we're doing. And so when we talk about momentum, I think sometimes we see it as that it mystically appears and disappears for no apparent reason. And here's what I would tell you. I don't believe momentum is by chance. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. It's faith. It's prayer. It's standing in the gap and expectation of what God is going to do. It's an attitude. The definition of momentum is the strength or force that something has when it is moving. And I like the way John Maxwell describes momentum in his book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He says this. He said, momentum magnifies success. Momentum shrinks problems and obstacles. He says momentum energizes, and then momentum enhances our performance, and momentum makes change easier. We all know it's easier to move a car. It's easier to steer a car that is moving rather than a parked car. And so as we talk about momentum, I want us to first dive into some of the things that are momentum busters. And the first thing would be lack of vision and purpose. People are going through the motions. There's complacency or apathy, or sometimes one of the mistakes is that there's multiple visions. And our team is like, which way do we run? Which target do we aim for? The second thing in our momentum busters is failure to celebrate the wins. Every staff meeting, we begin with this. Every Monday morning when we sit down, we pray and we say, what has God done in the last 7 days? But when we fail to celebrate that, here's what I would say. A celebration is wind in our sails. Number 3, failure to appreciate your team. That momentum is going to go down when team members don't feel valued, they don't feel loved, they don't feel appreciated. Micromanaging, number 4, or over control, it will stifle creativity and initiative, and it leads to frustration and it breaks momentum. Lack of resources and insufficient financial resources, manpower, or tools can also undermine momentum. That we want to make sure that we're supporting our team. Devaluing small contributions. That's why we celebrate the wins, but because we don't want to devalue the small contributions. The person who runs the camera has an influence upon the service that day. They're influencing the online campus and people that are watching from home. They're an integral part. Number 7 is talking problems more than progress. We want to be careful in our staff meetings. Yes, we need to identify areas of growth, as we call them. We don't call them problems. We call them areas of growth, areas where we can improve. But one of the things we want to be careful is not to focus on so much on what went wrong, but celebrating and focusing on what went right. Number 8 is negative motivation tactics. It's the threat. It's putting people down. If you guys don't start giving more, we're going to have to close the doors. Well, that doesn't motivate, and that's not going to build any momentum. Then we'll get into the momentum thrusters in just a second. Number 9 is focusing on the process instead of the people. People, not processes, get things done. And so we need to focus on the people and not the processes. Make sure that the people are getting the attention. We're highlighting and celebrating the people, that we're not so caught up in the process that we're missing the people that make up that process. Laziness and apathy is just a momentum buster big time. That when people are not giving their best and giving their all, focusing on weaknesses rather than strengths can be a momentum buster. Controlling rather than releasing. When people have to ask permission, they lose momentum. Selfishness is a momentum buster. Lack of faith is a momentum buster. And here's a big one, number 15. Sin and carnality is a momentum buster. It steals our confidence. It pulls us down. It makes us question, should we be leading? Can we be leading? Is God going to move? Is my sin? But when there is a confidence, and I've been living a holy life before God, there's a boldness about approaching a service, an event, or an activity. And so we want to walk in that. So let's get there. Momentum thrusters. It's going to be a lot of the reverse of what you just heard, but here we go. Momentum thrusters. Number 1 is vision and purpose. A great vision will shift the crowd from brakes to accelerators. I'm not sure what's happening here. Vision will cause people to lean in and create that momentum. And here's what purpose is. Purpose is explaining the why we are doing this rather than just the how. A lot of times as teachers and leaders, we want to tell people how to do something, but that's just being mechanical. Here, do it like this. Here's the way I want you to seat people. Here's the way I want you to greet people. But let's talk about the why and the vision, and now it creates momentum within our organization. Number 2, contagious leadership. And that is a huge reflection back on us as lead pastors, senior pastors, campus pastors. The people will follow the leader. As John Maxwell said, the people will rarely ever supersede the leadership. So we need to be leaders who demonstrate passion and vision and enthusiasm, and we are contagious with it. And when leaders take bold action and show confidence, it stirs others to follow suit. So the first group that we're going to be contagious with is to our team. And so every Monday when we get together, I'm sharing with my team, guys, here are some things that I feel like God is saying. Here's some things that I feel like God is calling us up to. Here's some things that we can celebrate and that God is leading us. I want to be a highly contagious person. I want to be engaged in what God is doing. And so someone once said this, if you don't like what you see in the crowd, you might need to look because they're a mirror of us. They're a mirror of who we are. And I know there have been times over the last 21 years of being a lead pastor that I was going through a difficult season of life. I was going through some challenging times unrelated to the church or the ministry, but going through those things, and I was feeling flat. I didn't have the momentum and excitement that I traditionally had. Well, the people felt that, they sensed that, and they responded to that. Thirdly, we pedal. We have this saying that we've had for years around Rock Family Church. We pedal when everyone else coasts. Think of riding a bicycle, and think of, everyone pedals going up the hill. But what we want to do is, yes, when we crest the hill, we want to pause there. We want to celebrate the win. We don't want to just be like, take the next hill. We want to pause and we want to have a celebration moment. But when we're riding the momentum of a big win, a big event, an Easter Sunday we just came through, we want to pedal when everyone else coasts. You say, what do you mean? We want the Sunday after Easter to be as good or even better than Easter Sunday. In other words, everyone else goes, oh, wow, we straightened the chairs, we straightened the rugs at the entryway. Man, we did everything. We wanted to look beautiful that on that Easter Sunday or that Christmas Eve. We wanted to be, well, and then they go, oh, and the next week the rows aren't straight. They didn't rehearse quite as much in the worship team, and maybe we didn't study as much. I want every Sunday to be an Easter Sunday. That's my calibration. That's my litmus test. I don't ever want to have a Sunday that I go up and I feel like I'm throwing out nachos instead of a filet mignon in my sermon prep. I don't ever want a Sunday that all of my serving teams that are making Sunday morning happen. I don't ever want a Sunday that they just show up. I want every Sunday that they are there with bells on, that they are excited about what they're doing. They're excited about seeing people come through the front door, and that momentum is created by that team because we pedal when everyone else coasts. And number 4, we must do something significant to cause a disturbance, to create an avalanche in our church. You guys know I live in Colorado Springs. I enjoy skiing. We go in the mountains. We're at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. But here's something we need to understand. An avalanche occurs when the snowpack or the layers of accumulated snow on the side of a mountain is in some way disturbed, leading to a fracturing of the top layer and a downward torrent of a large mass of snow. And a number of factors can set off a disturbance. They include natural factors like new precipitation, could be rain or snow, a sudden warming, or wind, or icefall, or rockfall, as well as so-called artificial factors like skiers or snowmobilers that move that top layer. And here's what is pivotal. Think about this. The long-held notion that avalanches can be triggered by human voice has been largely debunked. And here's how I want to apply that to us today. It's time we stop talking about revival in hopes it will create a disturbance and it will create an avalanche. That theory has been debunked. To create an avalanche, to create momentum in our church, we have to disturb the normal flow. We need to get people out of their comfortable box. This last week in our worship team, Our worship pastor, Scott Pearson, has done an amazing job of building our team and expanding our team. When he came here 2 years ago, he threw out a vision when he was here auditioning to the worship team, and he said, what I see is us getting out in the seats and up and down the aisles, and our current team members just like, oh my gosh, they froze. Well, he's been leading it. He's been getting off the stage himself. This last Sunday, the entire team created a disturbance in our normal worship service. Scott, as our lead worship pastor, our other lead vocalist, our supportive vocalist, I think there were about 8 or 9 people, came off the stage and were jumping, dancing up and down the aisles, on the chairs, in the middle of a section, singing and praising God. They made it uncomfortable for the moment, but it created a disturbance that began to create an avalanche. And we saw this past weekend, we saw more people engage in worship, in expressive worship of hands up, feet moving, voices shouting, and voices singing and celebrating the presence of God that we have not seen in years upon years. How did that come? We broke the ordinary. We created a disturbance in our normal church service. Now, here's the mistake. You can't just say to your worship team, go do this. It's going to create a disturbance. There was a building process that our worship pastor began to build. They had to get comfortable seeing him come off the stage. They had to get comfortable seeing him make that transition. And that was a little bit awkward. Pastor Scott's on the second row, standing in the middle of the section on the chairs, and he's leading. He was priming and prepping for the whole team to do what he was doing, and to create that avalanche that created an amazing move of God in our service. Number 5 is empowering people and delegation. When we give people ownership and responsibility over projects and over initiatives, it sparks momentum. It causes people to feel empowered, and they take initiative and they contribute more creatively. And so we want to allow leaders some autonomy and decision-making. It makes them feel valued and motivated. And pastors, I want to just help you out here. I do not like, approve, or affirm every decision that every team member makes on my team. Now, the opposite is we want to control every decision. We want everything to fit in our category of like or dislike. But what we need to recognize is we are better off to empower and to enable people to fulfill what is in them, and that everything doesn't have to run back through us, because I can stifle momentum. I remember in my many years, 20 plus years of youth ministry, I remember many times going into a staff meeting with this big, hairy, audacious goal and idea. And I'm like, pastors, whoever it was, we're going to do this. What about this? And the pastor thought about it for about 2 seconds and said, we're not going to do that right now. That's their call to make. But I know the feeling as a support staff when I had prayed and brought the idea out, and man, it killed momentum in me. It made me not want to jump. Now, granted, they might have been making a very wise decision in that moment. I might not have been looking at the church calendar, and I'm wanting to do this big event and doesn't match with the church calendar, the kids' calendar, the young adults' calendar, and I might have been pulled out because I wasn't planning effectively. But I know on the receiving end, when my idea was shut down, it distilled and broke that momentum. Here's a momentum thruster. Number 6 is change. Change pushes us out of the ordinary to extraordinary. It breaks the status quo. And so changing the order of service, simple changes like that, puts people in expectation mode and gets their faith up by what's happening. A couple of weeks ago, our traditional order of service is praise and worship. Somebody prays. We have a greet and meet segment. The host comes up, shares announcement, receives the offering, and then myself, Pastor Josh, one of our associates, will preach the sermon. And so I said, let's change it up. Right after worship concludes, I'm starting the sermon. And we'll do announcements and offering and all of that at the end. People were like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? And it got them out of their comfort zones. So never be afraid of change, because I believe change is a momentum thruster. Number 7, people getting saved. I'm telling you, one of the greatest motivators, momentum thrusters, is when people are getting born again. Think about in your own biological family, whether it's your children or your grandchildren, whichever category you're in, when there is a birth of a new baby, the entire house celebrates and they're excited. It creates momentum in the house. There's this new life. Well, the same is true spiritually. When we see people getting born again, it's going to excite people about the mission and the vision. Number 8, an encounter with God. An encounter with God gives people a holy confidence and builds momentum of, I want to come back next week. That is our prayer here at Rock Family Church, that every time people come for a service or a small group, that they experience the living presence of God, that they have an encounter with God, and recognize the encounter doesn't always happen in the service. I always tell our team and our lead volunteers, touch one person today, minister to one person today, because they might not receive anything in the worship set. They might not receive anything from the sermon that was preached or the prayers that were prayed, but in the lobby, before service, after service, when one of my pastors sees a member and says, how are you doing? And they go, fine. And he's prompted by the Spirit of God and says, I just felt a nudge in my heart that things aren't fine. What's going on? And he leaned into that moment, and he leaned into that need, and he grabbed that man of God and just began to pray over him and release God's power and presence. That man left the service changed and had an encounter with God that happened outside of the auditorium. And so I challenge our team, everyone reach one today. Everyone impact one. I preach to hundreds and hundreds every Sunday, but who's the one first service? Who's the one second service that God is saying, Dean, lean in, touch them, minister to them? Number 9 is moving forward in spite of obstacles. This is a momentum thruster. We all are going to have obstacles. We're all going to have opportunities that present themselves to us. But it's when we recognize we're climbing a hill, it means we need to lean in. We need to give more accelerator. We need to get our foot off of any brakes, and we need to push the accelerator so that we can lean in to overcome that obstacle. And number 10, one of the ways that I believe we can effectively create momentum and overcome those obstacles is through prayer. Prayer with our understanding, prayer in the Spirit. And I think in today's church culture, in our want to include everyone, want to reach everyone, I think as a church, we have pulled back from the power and the ability that God has given us in His Holy Spirit that helps us to pray. The Holy Spirit speaks and prays for us in God's perfect and divine will, that I think we need to lean into that power, pastors and leaders, lean into that ability to pray, that we're praying out things that might be a week ahead, a month ahead, or even years ahead. The Spirit of God is releasing the power, the presence, the angels, and the mighty working power of God in our behalf for the things that are coming for us. Number 11 is maintaining a high level of excellence. Excellence is the difference between a Ford Taurus you buy off the car lot or a NASCAR that is a Ford as well. There's a huge difference. They're both Fords, but they're radically and extremely different. The NASCAR has supreme excellence in the way it was designed and its engine, its carburetor, and all of its settings. And so excellence is the difference of swimming in shorts and a t-shirt or a Speedo. There's no drag. There's no reduction of that's pulling us or holding us back. It's the difference in NASCAR between first place and last place in the time frame of time trials of who's starting on the pole position, and in the IndyCar who's starting in number 33. So we all do the big things. We have services, we have worship, we have preaching, but we need to find that point of excellence. How can we do it better than anybody else? Not in a spirit of competition. I want to beat you, but I want to be the best of the best of the best. Does that make sense? So our goal is not just to be good. We want to be excellent. We want to be excellent at greeting. We want to be excellent at making the coffee that we're giving away. We want to be excellent as a skilled musician. We want to be excellent as a small group leader. And so we focus on excelling in the areas where most people will never see or notice. Most people won't come in and say, hey, the rows are a little bit jockeyed. Hey, there was a weed in the front flower bed. We want to create a spirit of excellence from our landscape to our chairs, to our restrooms and our cleanliness, to replacing ceiling tiles that have water spots. We want people to walk into our facilities and experience our leadership teams and go, there's something here. I'm excited about being here. Do you get that? All right. And then here's number 12. I pray every day for God to add winners to my team. A principle I learned from an opportunity I had to sit down at lunch with John Maxwell that he shared with me when our church was about 2 years old. It's been 19 years ago. And he said, I pray for God to send winners to my team every day. Praying for winning leaders, winning volunteers, winning givers, winning staff members. That creates momentum. When I've got first round draft picks who are serving with me and they're a winner, then that changes the whole context of the flow and the energy in a service. And then helping people in need. It gives a sense to our church members that we're making a difference in the world, that it creates an automatic momentum. I met with a pastor last week who was, their church had experienced some financial challenges. They had fallen behind in a couple of their mortgage payments. And so he came to me and he says, is there any way that Rock Family Church could potentially help? I said, yes, let me pray about that. We'll do something. And as I began to pray, God gave me a figure in my heart. It was a substantial figure that God gave me. And then I said, God, who else can I ask? I approached 3 other pastors. I sent them an email and I said, hey, pastors, here's a chance for us to help a small church. It's going through a difficult time. Would you join hands with me? And here's what we're doing. Would you consider any amount? Well, I set the bar. And within a matter of a couple of hours, all 3 pastors responded and said, I'll do the same. I'll do the same. I'll do the same. And literally within 6 hours, the collective body of Christ met that church's need that would have taken them months to pull out of. When I shared that with our church this past Sunday, there was an element of I would call it godly pride that I'm proud to be a part of this church. I love it that we're helping other churches, that it's not all about us. And it created a generosity momentum within our church family. And then let me wrap this up. Number 14 are bold, daring moves. That if you're trying to be safe in every decision, if here's what I can tell you. Every major advancement of our church in the last 21 years is a result of bold, daring moves. Whether that was leasing a facility, buying the building and land that we're in. Back in 2015, God challenged us to take a bold, daring move. We'd already purchased the building we're in, and the 9 acres came for sale next door. And I felt like, God, we're supposed to do it. It was scary. Yeah, can we afford this? Can we afford the mortgage payment? Can we do this? It was a bold, daring move that we made in 2015, that in 2023, we bought the land for $1 million, and in 2023, we sold that piece of land for $4.7 million that set us up to be mortgage-free, debt-free as a church, paid and completed the renovation that we were in the middle of, and gave us an excessive amount as our reserve fund to plant another campus out east where our city is growing. Number 15, practice, and practice. Momentum in our weekend services is the result of movement and forward progress during our practice time each week. We cannot expect public success if we're not successful on the practice field. The non-visible impacts the visible. So we're going to practice, we're going to prepare, we're going to plan, we're going to study, we're going to review so that we can do this. Number 16 is unity. People gather of one mind, one spirit, and one purpose. Number 17 is creativity, that we take something ordinary and we make it extraordinary. That we can just stand and preach a sermon, or we can get creative and say, Holy Spirit, lead us, guide us, and develop us. I can teach people about the power of water baptism and the significance of the death, the burial, and the resurrection. Or I can get a casket and preach with a casket on the stage and put someone in it that looks like they're dead with that bad makeup. And it brings it to a whole nother context of dying to sin and coming alive unto Christ. 18 is structure. Momentum will be lost if structure is not in place to sustain the force of motion. So here's the way I would put it. We want to always be preparing as a church for the next growth season. We want to have our classrooms equipped, that we're not maxed out, that we're not at capacity now, that we have extra volunteers, and we're saying we have the structure for more momentum. We have the seating capacity. We have the ability to expand. And so the example is this. The space shuttle, when it was returning to the atmosphere, it has tremendous momentum. But without a solid structure and heat shield, the force of the momentum would disintegrate the ship. And so if you attempt to launch an additional service, and without the teams, the people, the volunteers, and the plan, it will disintegrate your church, not add to your church. And then number 20, or I think this is 19, is expectancy. Expectancy. Simply telling people what to expect, creating some energy of what's coming, causing people to go, oh, that sounds cool. I want to get involved with that. I want to create expectancy of what we see, know, and plan that God is going to do. And then last one, which is number 20, are personal testimonies of God's faithfulness. Creates momentum, creates energy. If God did it for them, He'll do it for me. If God healed them, provided for them, He'll do it for me. Church leaders, take these invest them into your teams, into your people, momentum busters, momentum thrusters. Remember to check out deanhawk.com for all of our sermon resources free of charge. You can get those. We've had some new series that are just being released, and you can always check them out. We're always updating with our most recent sermon series when we complete them. God bless you guys. Have a great summer. We'll see you in June.
Thank you for joining us today. For a free sermon series and teaching outlines by Pastor Dean, visit us at deanhawk.com. Be sure and join us next month as we continue our growth on leadership.